the like button. Hello, everyone. As promised to Phil, because he's been screaming at me since the last time we did it. Tonight we're going to be talking about the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender over on Netflix. So, yay us! Um, Honestly, it's one of the best Netflix shows in years, in my
Really have.
opinion. Yeah. Um. Now, with everything, of course, there's a lot of changes to it, but its writing stands out. The characters are good. My only issue with it, cause is Aang doesn't waterbend throughout the entirety of the series. Did you know that?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Aang does not waterbend in the Netflix show once.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was one of the few things that actually bothered me about this first season.
yeah. Um, but okay, the cons list is small. So how about we talk about that first and then go into the pro list?
Okay.
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 Okay. So, Mom, you want to start off with your cons?
Actually, I didn't make a list.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything about it that you didn't really like then?
Not really. I mean, I liked a lot of it. It followed, watching the cartoons with my son.
Yes.
It was just kind of mimicked that a lot to me. But like you said, that would be my one con is the water bending,
Yeah.
because aren't they're with two people who do that.
Yeah.
Essentially,
And
yeah.
it's actually Aang's secondary bending is his water bending.
Mm-hmm.
Until he learns fire bending, and then it's fire bending becomes the secondary. But Phil, what any cons from you?
I mean, outside of the whole no water bending, because like in the cartoon, each season was like book one water, book two earth, book three fire. Outside of
Yes.
that had already been established. Zuko's burn, like it was better than the last shipbender movie, as I like to call it. But
We
like,
did not talk about that.
too sad. But like, the only nitpick I have for that is like Zuko's eyebrows would have been like like shaved off the actors to make it more accurate to
Well,
the cartoon.
yeah. No,
That was
I
one of my issues with it.
yeah. I get you with that.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like I was not mad on King Boomy.
Yeah, King Boomy, like I understand the criticism for him because like my brother even said that he seemed more bitter in this version than he did in the
So
cartoon, which
Bubba
I
has
understand
a
that criticism, but I enjoyed it nonetheless.
yeah, but Bubba has a very good take on it. Bubba says that this version of King Boomy is to show us that not everyone made it through okay. Right? That he has
Mm.
had to live 112 years of hell. Right? That
Right.
he has probably lost more family, more friends, more land, more anything than most people would know.
Mm-hmm.
And by that age, like no wonder he's bitter at Aang. From what like me and Bubba had a good chat about it, and honestly, I am genuine. Hey, welcome, Bubba. I was just telling about like how your opinions on King Boomy.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. So a lot of people that I've seen three different internet personalities get upset with King Boomy's resentment towards Aang. And though there was nothing wrong with the cartoon depiction of King Boomy, you got to think about this from his perspective. He does not know what happened to Aang 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the last time he saw his friend, he was literally heading home. And then all of this breaks loose. He knows that his friend is the Avatar, And now suddenly this kid, after 100 years of war and turmoil, shows up, looks exactly the same, has literally aged maybe a few weeks tops since he left the southern water tribe, and now here he is, wide-eyed and young and naive, still just as unwilling or not unwilling, but hesitant to accept his destiny. And you have literally fought for 100 freaking years, a century of deciding who lives and dies. I love that line when he goes, who gets the food, the soldiers or the orphanage? I absolutely love that. It wasn't that he hated Aang, but he resented Aang for being gone for 100 years and having the audacity to come back and actually do what needs to be done or not.
So I said to Bubba,
and I love that.
And he said to Coolstreet that if I was doing it, I would have added in one line when he saw Aang and he revealed who he was, right? How dare you? Just to add, like, how dare he come back, like, so young without losing, like, basically after losing nothing, right? Like, yes, he lost the Airbenders, but he skipped the entire war. So, how dare you?
Well, yes, but I think that the fact that he did lose the Airbender, I mean, Boomy has to at least assume that he saw the fall of the Air Temple. So, I mean, he has to at least acknowledge that he did suffer loss like everybody else did. He just got to take a 100-year nap and didn't have to actually deal with it, unlike the rest of them. I mean, you got to think of the countless people who have lived, people that were born after that and died before the Avatar ever returned, the countless lives that have lived their entire life in this war, whether they were cut short or even if they died from old age, people in their 80s and 90s that lived and died after and before the return of the Avatar. And so I mean, he wants Aang to understand the magnitude of everything and understand why he needs to man up and fight, why he needs to quit cowering and hiding. And I mean, whether it was Aang's fault or not, which spoiler alert, Monk Gyatso, that's another addition I absolutely loved, is Monk Gyatso actually telling him, no, Aang, you couldn't have done anything. You did the right thing by running. That was the one thing that the animated show missed, and I believe that letting Aang off the hook a little bit, for that was the right thing to do as well.
Yeah, I loved Gyatso when they went to the spirit world. You could see, because Gyatso was saying, "I'm holding on," and you could actively see him shaking, right? Like, he was using every ounce of energy that he had to stay there, to talk to Aang, to be there for Aang. Then when Aang left, he's like, "Okay, I'll see you later," and he's like, "You go." He never said, "I'll see you later," because from what he said to Aang before is all the other Airbenders have moved on and joined the Great Circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he came back and he was gone, which to me means that Monk Gyatso has gone on and joined the Great Circle now. Like, Monk Gyatso has gone and gone to be reincarnated.
Right.
Yeah.
I can agree to that, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the one other thing that, like, one last thing that I found, like, was on my cons list.
Okay.
And that's, like, Sokka. Like, not, like, exactly like the actor, because I liked his portrayal, and I think all the characters.
Are you talking about his sexism arc?
Well, I was talking about, like, how, like, I enjoyed the fact that the show made sure to try to make the characters resemble the anime characters,
Mm-hmm.
but they made him so freaking serious. Like, he had a pulse stuck up his butt.
Yes, but okay, so with Sokka, right? You have to understand kind of Sokka went from in the snap of an eye. Sokka went from being, if you remember, he was sarcastic, he was funny back when he was at home, right? He has been taken out of the only world that he knew. He then got to see the Fire Nation up close, that they hated him, right?
Right.
N- He has not seen any other water like tribe members. When he goes up to the Northern Water Tribe, Kasaka is surrounded by the Avatar and his waterbending sister. So when he makes it to the Northern Water Tribe, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, we'll have what non-benders like me. Nearly everyone up there is a bender,
Right.
right? Then he goes to the Earth Nation, meets more benders who are like powerful, fantastic, strong benders. The only person who he meets who is on his level, because Sokka's arc now is not I'm sexist, I need to work over this. Sokka's arc is now I am a non-bender, I need to find my place in the world. So the first season that we're looking at is Sokka is trying to find his place in the world. Like he was humbled by the Kyoshi warriors, right?
Hmm.
Then he saw every single person apart from the Kyoshi warriors he has seen is a bender.
Hmm.
Sokka feels lost right now.
Hmm.
Sokka is trying to find his feet, trying to find who he is, what does he matter to this world?
And I get that side. It's just like my point is like like because I kind of got that sense too from the anime show. Just
Yes.
like he was like, you know, he had like his moments where like we really dove into that in the anime show. But like out of
Yeah.
the like what eventual five main character cast that we get between him, Suko, and Katara, Toph, and Suko, if I haven't said Suko already, is that he was like more so like like the comedy relief of the main group. And this person, I didn't feel like he wasn't that comedy relief, like a little bit.
He's
Like he was. That's where I was coming from with it. Like I wish that they made him do like more joking, like maybe as a way of like him trying to cope with all that.
No, I get you. I absolutely do. But the thing is, if you noticed after the Siege of the North, right? He is more jokey. He is Sokka.
Mhm.
What I believe that joking is going to be is a trauma response. If
Yeah.
I if I'm not laughing, I'm crying.
They're They're going to use it like Spider-Man or Mikey from the Ninja Turtles.
You had to bring up Ninja Turtles with Phil here, didn't you? Now that is the only
funny
way.
funny thing is, since Bobo brought up Ninja Turtles Mikey, I actually did make a video like what was it like last year, where my theory of why Michelangelo makes so many jokes is partially to like cope with like their
It's a trauma
situation.
response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
funny
mommy,
Bobo actually said that.
yeah, but mommy, what do you think about the points that we've brought up?
They're really good. I like a lot of the action scenes and the fights and um, the storytelling. I mean, I know they were kind of limited on budget but they tried to pull the best parts of the stories
Yes.
into the, and it seems like this is kind of a weird comparison, but it had more action than Star Wars,
No, it did.
especially Ahsoka. It was just it seemed like it was better choreographed, and they actually gave a damn about entertaining us instead of just making something cookie cutter.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Yeah, nothing against those who like current Star Wars, but or the MCU or whatever. But Disney has fallen into this rut where they are trying to exposition everything. They
Yeah.
don't really want to show us what what validates this, and this happening. They just want to tell us that happened so they can show us this, and this.
Yep.
And, that's the thing. This show, kind of like the One Piece live action, showed things that were only exposition in the cartoon, but because they had a limited time, because they had to, like for instance, the King Boomy episode, they literally combined the inventor, the Secret Tunnel, and King Booming all into one episode, and those were three different parts of the season, and it works really well. They do a really good job. And so what and so that's what I like. Like, for instance, the showing us things that were implied but never outright stated. Like, I know Revan will want to touch on this a lot more later, and so I'll save the brunt of it for when he's ready. But, like, for instance, the exposition we get about Liu 10 and the extra meetings we see between Zuko and Iroh that brought them closer together. There were things that were implied in the cartoon but never actually shown, unlike in this.
So let's talk about the changes for a bit. Now that Bubba brought it up, one of my favorite changes, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but it's one of my favorite ones, is the fall of the air nomads.
Same.
Like, honestly, you got to see how powerful, like, they were making tornadoes and that, right? You got to see how powerful all the air nomads were. Me and Bubba, when we were watching it, we were saying to each other, the main issue with the air nomads is, strategically, all their entire, like, people were in one place. Right?
Yeah.
When they knew how Fire Lord Sozin felt. That was incredibly stupid and dangerous. Secondly, hold on. Okay, sorry. Secondly, they not being trained to fight. Yes, they're being trained. They can use offensive, but what I mean is, Earthbenders are trained to kill. Waterbenders are trained to kill. Firebenders are natural killers, right? Not airbenders. The only time we've seen an airbender properly going on the offense to kill is Zahir in The Legend of Korra. Right? Other than that, they're like, no, we're defensive. They should not have been. They're potentially the most powerful of all benders. Because their entire race are benders. They can suck the air out of your lungs. They can suck the air out of the room. We saw Monk Gyatso when he was fighting and he sucked the air out of the room, right?
Yeah.
Then,
well, bear in mind, everything else requires oxygen to do anything. Yeah. So the air is definitely the most powerful, and obviously Fire Lord Sozin believed so, or he wouldn't have went to go wipe them all out.
Yes, but his mistake was when he was fighting Fire Lord Sozin, right? He was pulling the air towards him, and Fire Lord Sozin ignited his own body, like wrapped himself in a cloak of fire, which then was so hot it ignited the air. So when Monk Gyatso was pulling the air towards him, he was now pulling towards his own death. You get me? So, he, in my opinion, like, it might have been like, oh yeah, if this happens, like with Firebender, just pull the air out of the room. Okay, yeah, but what he should have logically done was pushed the air out the door where Sozin was, instead of pulling everything towards him. Go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say too, because I was going to say earlier too, but I wanted to let you finish your point.
Yeah.
That with the whole like Airbenders stance on like how you were saying how like in the after the last Airbender, the flashbacks per se, they're more peaceful, but in Legend of Korra, they're more aggressive. You can make a argument that it's like different time periods where like in the flashbacks up until like Fire Lord Sozin, maybe they didn't have any like reason to fully like learn how to fight, which if you like guys like that justification or not, whatever in this scenario. But my overall point is, by the time we get to like Legend of Korra, maybe they realize, oh wait, by the time when the air nomads pretty much got wiped out, we were too like passive and not exactly as aggressive as we probably should have been. So we better train to fight now, so that way decrease the chance of us getting permanently wiped out.
Yeah, but you're forgetting something about that. Tenzin was basically raised by Sokka as well, right?
True.
Tenzin's other his other uncle was Fire Lord Zuko, right?
Mhm.
His potential aunt is like Azula. Then he's got so every single adult around him are warborn, right?
I really don't want that. I don't want that redemption to happen. I know that's an
It's
unpopular
already
opinion.
it's already in the works in the books, right?
Los Zulos.
And the Azula redemption is already started in the
Oh,
books.
well, fun fact before you get off that subject, if we had
Yeah.
a season 4 of the anime show, I've heard, and I read this article that Solo's redemption will took place in season 4.
Yes, but they canceled season 4 to make some movie that never happened.
Right.
So then Tenzin grew up, right? And he saw all this shit happen in the world. He lost his dad, and he had children, right? Now
Mhm.
Tenzin, you've seen, is ripped, which
Mhm.
means that he works out physically, right? And
Right.
he also knows how to fight martial arts wise without bending, which
Mhm.
means he learned from Sokka, right? Now
Mhm.
his son Milo is like, oh, I want to be a commander like Uncle Boomy, right?
Mhm.
Which means that when he grows up, he's already militaristic. And Boomy, a trained general, well, near enough a commander, right? Is in charge of all the airbenders. We saw him, he's like, come on, troops, right? And that was just in training. By the time of book 4, they're already a fighting force. So by the
I'd
time of
like to
like
believe that Bodhi is the reincarnation. Yeah, so
that would be cool. Honestly, that would be touching.
Right.
But so then we have, by the time of the next airbender, we've got a kid whose entire life's purpose is to be the first airbending general. New airbenders who are from predominantly a fighting culture, the earthbenders, right? The
Mhm.
airbenders are not going to let themselves fall again. So yeah, I could easily see the next generation of airbenders being frightening. Uh, but so when we're going with changes, I a lot of Iroh, when he kept referring to Zuko as his nephew, and I brought this up to Bubba multiple times throughout the show. There was multiple instances where he wanted to call Zuko his son. You could see it in his mouth. You could see it the way he was moving his body.
the actor did an incredible job portraying that.
The actor did, yes, he did a wonderful job. Um, like honestly, and Zuko looked at him like he was dad, but we got in this to see so much more of the Fire Nation. I really liked Fire Lord Ozai because I don't think he's a completely bad guy in this one. What's the panel's opinion?
I think he's still a bad
I
guy.
I disagree. The only reason why I disagree is because everything that he does is motivated only by his own ambition and quest for power.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. He definitely wants his nation as a whole to prosper. His ambition and power. He wants to set up for generations. But let's not forget, Ozai in any version, his number one goal is to do what Sozin could not complete. That is literally his goal. And he will stop at nothing to make that happen. There is nobody that can convince him otherwise. His wife, his children, there is absolutely nothing that will, that would have stopped
Yeah,
him peacefully. Aang did the closest thing you could possibly do to stopping him peacefully.
by removing his spending, which is
Yeah,
what happens when they
which
turn
which
30,
he's
which
still
is
not entirely powerless.
no, he's ripped as fuck. But then Zuko actually removes his power by he locked him away in a prison cell where it was actually stated by the creators that he died like early enough in his 50s. So he
Well,
died in
with that being, yeah, that's more like a I would equate that to like a depression thing, like he just gave up on living.
yeah. So talking about the Fire Nation, we got to see a lot more of Azula in this series with Ty Lee, and so I'm two ways on her. Like I do like her, I do like the actress and that, but I think she should have been kept for series two. If I'm honest,
I felt the exact same way. Like I,
Yeah,
because I didn't like. On one hand, I enjoyed seeing like what she was doing during the events of season one, but on the other hand, I agree with Raven on this one. It
yeah,
would have been better if she like kept for season two, and then maybe have flashbacks to what she was doing during season one. Maybe.
yes, but
well,
she.
but
Oh, go ahead.
to be fair, they used her as the catalyst to tell Zhao's story, and
That
so
you
I
mean
mean,
out of
yeah,
the dumbass?
yes. Oh, by the way, we want to talk about changes. I love this version of Zhao.
Oh God, yes.
Like
So I
that,
have a great story about
that was great villain material.
yes. So I have a fantastic story about Zhao, right? Um, but yeah, but honestly, I felt Azula was quite childish. I know she's 14, but still.
I mean, to be fair, what's like? Do you like? I kind of always felt like she was kind of childish, but at the same time, damaged
But
type childish too.
when you're saying
A
she's
spoiled
childish,
little rich
she's
kid is a
a child.
spoiled little rich kid,
Yeah,
no matter how
but
powerful they are.
she's the thing is like, and what everyone was saying, and even the creator was saying is, what people forget is she is a child being raised by a megalomaniac. Phil would know all about that, being forced to eat pineapple pizza every hour.
Yeah, once you go pineapple pizza, you go mad. Just
Yeah,
as Raven.
I can't go mad. I don't. I'm a concept. Anywho, now talking about the Fire Nation, Iroh is so. I really like this version of Iroh. Honestly, he is like kind. He is loving. He is exactly like he is in the show.
Ooh. Speaking of
Go ahead.
iron changes, was this? I know that this somewhat like controversial to a little bit certain degree, but his son's funeral, like the fact that
We will.
they
Yes.
you want me to save on that or keep going?
No, I want Bubba to do that because I know that's his favorite part of the entire
Okay,
series.
so like before, okay, the part I'm referring to is like when Suga actually showed
Yeah,
like
let Bill
humility.
cook.
Yeah.
Let me take it.
Yeah, you go ahead and then we'll kick to Bubba.
Okay, I liked when Suko like after like Suko was saying the thing that his father said, told him to say. He told him the story about like the whole like flute or not flute.
Yes.
Is it flute or like the thing that Iroh's son gave him? And then pretty much
Badge.
the entire what?
The badge. It was a badge.
Yeah, that badge. Thank you, the badge. And then pretty much in that entire scene was leaves on the vine. Now I know like
Yeah.
that part is kind of controversial how they used the leaves on the vine bit, but I liked in that scene. That was cool. That was cool. That was
That
cool.
that would honestly go to fit in that Leaves on the Vine is a funeral melody in the Fire Nation. But Bubba,
Right.
you wanna kick off?
Yes, because of that scene. The leaves on the vine in the background was a very nice touch, but the fact of the matter is that in that moment, with they are in a flashback, giving us exposition, but doing it in such a good, heartfelt way that we accept it and we love what's happening. So Luton has died, Iroh has been disgraced, and here's Ozai, taking Iroh's birthright and saying these platitudes, these ceremonial platitudes to tell him, how great Luton will be remembered, and leaving it open-ended so that he get, back-ended compliments so that he can imply that you'll be remembered poorly.
Yeah.
And after Ozai leaves the room, you see Zuko's shoulders, everything just, he relaxes for a moment. He does. And then he goes back and he hands him the medal that Liu Tin gave him. And, and the implication with the story, that when Ozai was being, overbearing, or when Ozai was being abusive, so that it was Liu Tin that was watching out for him. That despite all of his busy training and everything else, Liu Tin was the one who was taking care of Zuko before, while Iroh was out being a war general. And I love the implication of that.
That is the face after Ozai spoke to him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You see Zuko. He tells him, Liu Tin gave me this medal for, and so it could give me strength because nobody was stronger than him, and you realize how much Zuko looked up to and loved Liu Tin, how much Liu Tin watched out for him, and how much he loved him. And that is what starts, in this version, that is what starts the bond between Iroh and Zuko. And it's absolutely amazing how they used it, because they make you feel every moment of it.
Right here.
These two men grieving. Yeah, these two men grieving over someone they mutually loved and coming together, and Iroh filling the fatherly role for Zuko, because his father is indeed a maniac, and Zuko becoming a surrogate son, kind of like the Karate Kid. The Karate Kid's not really about karate. That's just the catalyst they use. The Karate Kid's really about Mr. Miyagi, a man who lost his family, and Daniel, a boy who lost his father, coming together and becoming, like father and son. And, that's what's happening here.
There's a line in the comics that I hope to God that they do in the TV show. In the comics, Zuko is a bit older. We're talking like 20, right? Someone has kidnapped Iroh, and they've got anti-firebending gloves on him, so Iroh can't firebend. Zuko breaks in, and he misspeaks, and he turns around and says, "Where's my father?" When talking about Iroh. And when he sees him, he calls Iroh Dad.
Yeah.
And another thing that I really liked about Zuko and Iroh that kind of make the whole father and son feel between them happen even more. So when towards the end of said episode of the funeral, in the flashback when Iroh gets on the ship and Zuko says, "You don't have to go. I'm not gonna return for a good while." And Iroh says, "I'm exactly where I need to be."
Everything I need is on that ship, and he's like,
And then he tries to make that lighten the mood by saying, "Plus, I got my tea."
yeah, but you could see both of them were like, Iroh was basically crying, just standing there.
Right.
Well, and that was a callback to the cartoon after the duel between Zhao and Zuko. After Zhao tries to shoot him in the back, and Iroh stops him, and he tells him, my nephew has more grace in exile than you do in defeat. And afterwards, when Zuko says, "Did you really mean all that, Uncle?" "Yeah, of course, I told you. So tea is my favorite. Jasmine tea is my favorite. Whatever. I love that." But it was a nice callback.
Now, we have to talk about Zhao. The man, the myth, the dumbass. He is fantastic, and he chews up every bit of scenery that he is in. He is strategically good, and he is a fucking dumbass all at the same time. I swear to God. Now, the fun fact about it is the man who played Shao actually thought that he was going up for the Avatar movies, the one with the blue people in it. Right? He thought he was going up for James Cameron's Avatar.
That's actually pretty funny.
Because his agent didn't tell him anything. He just said Avatar.
Yeah. And it's like, yes, brilliant. And then his kid's like, yeah, you're Admiral Shao, awesome. So
I think he essentially got the bigger dub because, all the respect to the blue people, I do enjoy the Avatar: The Last Airbender Avatar more than the blue people.
everyone does. So with him, like with Shao, like fucking hell, that man's entire plan at the end of it, where he gets himself killed, fucking dumbass. And so one of the things that we love, and we both thought was funny, was when after he caught Aang, and he was talking to the guy who was writing down about his history and everything like that, right? And he was like saying, no, do this, make it sound better. Like editing. You could see he was editing history as they went. Turns around, and when Aang escapes, he's like, so do you want me to put down that he heroically escaped her? And he just looks at him.
Because he had like smacked his pen after Aang had said something snarky. He's like, don't write that down.
Yeah. But my God. Talking about snarky. Zuko is such a teenager in this one. More realistic of a teen. Hey, Miss Mombi, so good to see you. Zuko's so much of a teenager in this. Like, when he's there with a meeting with Iroh, he's talking, and then after he's like, Iroh, stop. Like a whiny little, like, you're like, dude, stop whining for 2 seconds. Which is fucking hilarious. But my favorite thing about him is the relation between Zuko and his crew. Honestly. The fact that they didn't respect him up until nearly the North Pole episode, like to where he caught Aang. And then Iroh's telling her the story. Bubby, you want to tell about that bit? Because I know you love that.
I absolutely love that because this is also something that was added more or less. So, of course, the crew, after Azula after she's helped Zhao scheme and, plot, suddenly he is made an admiral and he outranks Zuko. And he takes over Zuko's hunt for the Avatar. And his crew is more than happy to turn on him and, because all they see of Zuko is the angry princeling that yells at them and belittles them constantly. So, while other things are happening out and about that, while he's basically going to liberate Aang as the Blue Spirit. Yes. Anyway, Iroh is telling them the story of how Zuko got his scar. In this, they added that the troops that were going to be sacrificed in the sacrifice play in the war room that Zuko spoke out against were indeed these troops that were considered expendable because of how many new recruits they had at the time. And it is his first mate on that ship is just a couple years older than Zuko. That they are all very young or very old. And so that there are a bunch of young guys and old guys that the Fire Nation generals and their Fire Lord thought was expendable. They were going to use them. They were going to use them as a sacrifice so that they could go. They could draw the enemy out. These guys were going to die. Then they were going to go in and wipe them completely out. Zuko did not see any honor in that, and when he called it out, that's when that's when the Agni Kai is declared that's and instead of the general that Zuko thought he was going up against, here comes his father. Like, they played that out pretty much the same, but at the end of it, the when Zuko is being exiled, that's when Uncle Iroh drops it to them that they were the troops that were going to be sacrificed, and that part of his exile punishment was taking them with him. And it was really, really good. Like, it was an absolute, like it was a great bomb drop. They did, they played it off really well, and after that, his troops love him and do whatever he asks of them. And so they do. They desert from Zhao's forces and go to try to go after the Avatar their own way.
And I pointed this out to Kusri and to Bubba, that in the Siege of the North, when Aang turns in and starts destroying the ships, the ship that you see smashing, like, that they're drawn on, right? That we see smashing into one of the bigger ships and immediately breaking in half and exploding was Zuko's ship. Like, we saw his crew die on screen without it being brought to our attention. Which then at the end of it, Iroh's trying to cheer Zuko up. He's like, I'm sure that Commander Zhao will, not Commander Zhao, Jin Lee or Jimmy, like, basically, is around somewhere. I'm sure that they got away.
Which opens it up, opens it up later on if they want to bring any of those characters back.
Yeah, but the ship's gone.
Yeah.
But they're dead. And Zuko just replies,
most of them are probably dead, but like I said, any of the named characters, they could bring them back later because of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then Zuko just simply replies, I'm so tired. So what did she think of the changes that they made in the North?
I mean, other than not trading Aang in waterbending.
Yeah, and that fucking Timu wig and ball cap, that fucking...
okay, come on now. It didn't look that bad.
It didn't look that good either.
No, but they did okay. They did all right.
I know. I'm just making fun.
but Les, I would like to bring up that the women not being able to fight and how that came about, and how the changes were made in that particular regard. They did a good job on that. But during the duel between Katara and the Watermaster, like him. I always forget his name. That's not the point. The point is that we see her definitively outclassed, but we see how astonished he is that how far she's come in such a short time, and we're at this point. Where out of all of them, she's better than the students that he's been working on for quite some time, because unlike them, and they bring this up to Sokka later, her and Sokka have actually seen battle. They have actually fought the Fire Nation. And so, we see their experience come into play, and it was a really good moment because they did not Mary Sue her. They did not make her, look like she could just outclass everybody. But she struggled and she lost the duel, but she made the impression that he needed to see to be able to, so that later on, they were able to win the battle. It did come in, it did come up later, and
Yeah.
when even his own wife, like I said, it was very nicely done without being political, without being ham-fisted or heavy-handed.
When they called Master Qatar, she said to Paco, "I'm no master," and he said, "Go and ask." And looked at her, Master Katara.
Yeah, I was supposed to ask, how do you guys feel about that part?
What? Her being a master?
Well, her getting being referred to master, because I've been hearing mixed
So
things. Like some people really enjoy it, and then some people say, "Well, it seems so
okay,
cool that she's being referred to a master."
she stood up to a multi-decade long man for like waterbending master, right? After training herself
Hmm.
with basically a scroll and a pamphlet. What she's essentially after doing is, well, he's learned how to do martial arts. She's a street fighter, right? Like
Right.
she fights in ways that he's not seen before. She's using waterbending as if she's an earth and a firebender, right?
Hmm.
She's also using some airbending techniques, but made out of water. She is a master. It's just that you're doing martial arts yourself, right?
Right.
You know that there's different levels of master, correct?
Hmm.
So she's like master, like what is it, Dan? For what you're doing.
Well, okay, so there's black belt, and then each black belt goes there's what, 6, 7 ranks of black belt. I forget how
Yeah.
much. There's Dans, and I
So
think it's fourth Dan is
she's
what you could
first.
consider as master per se, the
Yeah.
official title.
But essentially she's the first Dan.
Right.
Right? She's got her first black belt. He's a fourth Dan, right? But
Hmm.
she stood up to him. She gave him a run for his money. The only reason that stopped him was his age. Right? If
Hmm.
he was like in his 30s or in his 40s, he would have schooled her.
I agree.
But the only thing that stopped him, like honestly, was
Well, I mean, let's face it, he did school her, but he did so, he did so in a graceful way himself because he was learning from her just as she was learning from him.
Hmm.
one of the greatest lessons, honestly, that he taught her in the animated show and in this one is that when she will be fighting other benders, that they're not going to go not normal, like you need to bow, you need to do this. How the scrolls tell each other a duel goes, right? They're like, no, that's not how life goes anymore. They're going to kill you. He froze her up. He put her in. Look at everything he did. He froze her up. He put her in spikes, right? He slammed her against things. He threw her into a bubble of water. Essentially, earth spikes. He tried to drown her. He locked her into place. Essentially, what he is doing is he's like, look at what everyone else can do to you. You need to learn. Which then brings me on to another point, like the
Hmm.
changes in that. Because I'm gonna let Bubba take over Commander Chair because I know how much he loves talking about him. But what do you think about how realistic all the deaths were? Like the fact that we saw so many, which we never saw in the animated show. It's so many dead bodies.
Well, I mean, not only do they have to try to appease their audience from 20 years ago, they also have to appeal to people older than that audience and younger than that audience while trying to keep up, not tone like, but trying to keep up in maturity of things like House of the Dragon or The
Yeah,
Boys or I mean just other shows. They need an adult audience to care. And the thing is that a lot of us love cartoons out of nostalgia, and
yeah,
people like us, geeks have never had a hard time being adults watching a new cartoon.
Amen to that.
But the average, the average father of four, that's come home from a long day at work and wants to watch the game, you know, his kids, watching this, this is the type of show that if his kids are watching, he might sit there and watch with them, and whereas the cartoon might not keep his attention. And
Yes.
that's that's the thing. So them showing us death in ways that they never did before, like in the ways the cartoon never did, I'll say, did a really, really good, it was really good. And the interaction with the other avatars, especially with Kyoshi, they did a really good job with that, and showing how brutal she fights, or how or how despite him being a firebender, how passive Roku is. And it is that they do a good job making us understand that the spirit of the avatar is what reincarnates, but each of them are their own person. Each of them, they are all attached to the spirit of the avatar. They are not really the same soul reincarnating over and over again. They are each attached to the soul that dwells, alongside them, within them. And so that goes hand in hand with the death when we go into the spirit world, and he deals with the face stealer. I forget his name, but when he deals with the face, Anyway, he's the way we see him do that here versus the way he did it in the animated cartoon. Like all of these few key changes that they had to make walk hand in hand with the more mature tone. Walk hand in hand with seeing people die, seeing lasting consequences to everything. The guy that Sokka was jealous of, that in the battle for the Northern Water Tribe, the guy that Sokka was jealous of, who had nothing but admiration for Sokka. After he dies, we see how hard that hits. This guy's the same age as them. This guy has he hasn't been through as much as them, but he was just as willing and fought just as hard as they did, and he's dead. And that's a life that's never coming back. Like, we see his body, and that's a big deal.
Like, and one of the things that I really loved when the water bending went out, right? The water benders, they were, we can't bend. Well, what did they do? Pulled out knives immediately.
Yes, they continued to fight because they knew that the fight wasn't over, and the Fire Nation needed to know that just because the other side couldn't bend, they're not just going to stop.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was Bubba who pointed this out. Maybe it might have been Coolstreet. Is when we were talking about, like, analyzing when we were watching it, is a load of the people were still bending, but they were doing the martial arts moves on the firebenders and still kicking their asses. Like,
that was Kusari that brought that one up. I remember that.
Yeah, they were doing the flips and the turns, and like they were like, one of them even broke a guy's neck with his boot. Bubba, we're going to let you cook, right? You want to talk about Zhao? You want to talk about Zhao the dumbass?
Well, and that's the thing. They did a really good job. They reenacted that scene live action without carbon copying that scene. And like I brought up, one of the things I love about this version of Zhao is that he is absolutely fantastic, like over the top. Like you said, eating up the scenery. This Zhao reminds me of a Highlander villain. Like, he's got that nice air of crazy about him, but he's dangerous. He is dangerous, and he would kill you just as soon as look at you. But he doesn't, and he doesn't get in fights that he does not just know that he can win. And so you see all of his ambition finally overpower him. He finally starts taking gambles because he doesn't see them as gambles anymore. And it's like when somebody's winning at the casino and then all of a sudden they're not, and they don't realize that they're not getting those wins back. Like they just keeps doubling and tripling down on it. And, of course, Iroh says his famous line, whatever you do to that spirit, I'll do to you. It's great because, well, what we do, we see him do something atrocious and impossible. He destroys, the spirit of the water. Or, sorry, the moon. Sorry, not the water. It destroys the moon spirit and makes it to where the waterbenders can't, fight. And then Aang, of course, merges with the spirit of the water and goes freaking insane.
Mhm.
And, they do that. They even play like it's like an almost not Godzilla music, that you hear while he's doing this. They show us a kaiju scene, and both sides are being attacked. It's not just the Fire Nation. Like, we see the water troops having to get out of the way because this angry, wrathful, vengeful spirit does not care who he tramples. And and I absolutely enjoyed thoroughly the entirety of the scene. We see massive carnage on, or it wasn't. I will say that there were dead bodies. There was a little bit of blood, but we don't see gore and frivolous, gratuitous gut squishing or anything. But
Yes.
there is enough that we understand the consequences of what's transpiring here, and we realize that in that moment, Aang has completely, despite what Kyatso had just told him an episode before this, or 2 episodes before this, he still does not believe he has a right to live. He still believes that his life is forfeit. He still believes that he has outlived his time, and because of that, he is willing to go. He's willing to do things that are not healthy for him and not healthy for the world. Yeah.
So
the ultimate survivor's guilt.
I noticed something. You remember the bowing scene when all the waterbenders bowed?
Yeah, I remember.
A Fire Nation soldier got down and bowed. Now, my question is, do you think he was half Water Nation?
No, I mean, that's a possibility.
It's either that or that he realized that the waterbenders and essentially
maybe he believed in the spirits.
Yeah, I was about to say that either Aang, he believed in the spirits, Aang and the waterbenders were actually not as bad as they were. He was like,
Well,
they
you
were.
remember from season 3 of in the Boiling Rock episode in the anime, right? That when they were there and they got to interact with the soldiers were laughing and they're like, "Oh yeah, this one over here," and they're like just regular people. Like Sokka even made friends with a few of them, and he's there and he turned around and he said, "They're just like us."
Mhm.
Which I think that's what they're going. That's what's shown. Like, not all the Fire Nation people are bad. They're just doing their service for king and country. What we don't know, and I bet you anything, a lot of them are conscripts.
Oh, absolutely. Or raised to everybody joins regardless, because if you don't, your family's a disgrace.
That is true. But did he mention Kuzan? He did. Remember one of the things that I did like is the actor who played Aang was talking about when his friends all around the world. He mentioned Boomy, and then he mentioned Kuzan. Kuzan wasn't a lord. Kuzan wasn't a great general or anything like that. It was literally just some guy who was friends with the Avatar back in the day. We don't know. He could have ended up being like one when he grew up, right? Being one of the worst generals in Fire Nation history. But I like to think that he was Tylee's ancestor. That he kept like traditions of the airbending and like them how to move and
Yeah,
everything like that. I like to think he was her ancestor.
that's a possibility.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But regardless, yeah, they do, like you said, they do a good job. Both shows do a really good job of showing us. My grandfather was a World War II veteran, and he used to say, "A soldier understands a soldier."
Yeah.
And what they meant by that, what that really means, is that both sides are there, like you said, for king and country, doing what they're required to do. We see this play out when Iro is about to be taken to the labor camp, and that guy who was at him and his brother died at the siege of Ba Sing Se, and we realize as he's talking that his brother was killed when Iro went ballistic after his son was killed, and
Yeah.
Iro is weighing his own guilt versus his need to survive. And you see this at no time. Iro does tell him some hard truths, but at no time that, even though this man has beaten the hell out of him and treating him very inhumanely, at no time does Iro ever spit in his eye or tell him, that he's wrong for feeling this way. And it is. It's because it was to show us that both sides have suffered loss. Both sides are hurting. He tries to tell Aang that. He goes, many in the Fire Nation are tired of this war too. It's been 100 years. They just want this war to end one way or another.
Yeah.
And so it is. It is a good way to look at it. That they're doing a good job of showing us good people on all sides.
Mm-hmm.
And Jet and the Freedom Fighters, they were, we see them pulling off terrorist attacks in Omashu. They were also a part of that. Like, they put 4 major story plots into one episode. They did a really good job. But we see, we see Jet and his Freedom Fighters. They're not good guys. They're really not. They've gone off the deep end, and we see them take it a step further in the live action and start attacking their own kingdom, so that they can try to spur a rebellion, because they want a leader to rise up that will do what King Boomy won't.
I cannot wait until like this next season. Hopefully they'll bring this in when they have Jack get introduced and be totally brainwashed.
So the reason why the director was replaced was he was not going to he was going to ruin Avatar, right? Toph's character was going to be completely different. There was going to be no Lake Lao guy. There's going to be no war in Ba Sing Se at all. None of that, and ruined the stuff with Toph. So
Well, they tried to tell us there was no war in Ba Sing Se.
There is no war in Ba Sing Se.
Well, we're a long, long ways from Boston, say.
Exactly. but that goes like good and bad guys on both sides. That goes to show in my own country, the Duke of Sligo, the Irish like rebels and freedom fighters destroyed his entire family. They killed the entirety of everyone in the mansion that night. Like, there's even stories that they nailed the baby to the door, but we don't know did they actually do that, right? But these guys are seen as like the heroes of it, and it's like, but they're not. Well, we've gone for an hour. I'd like to thank everyone for tonight. So, would you like to share yourselves, Mommy? Would you like to start?
I have a podcast that is normally on like Monday nights, and then I do a daily show Monday to Friday, and then we do watch parties on the weekends.
Wonderful.
And right now we're watching Alf and Futurama on the weekends, and then during the normal podcast we are talking to creators like musicians and authors and content creators, and Potato's supposed to be on at some point, and and so I just like to talk, and mostly about sci-fi.
Yeah, lovely, thanking you. Lord Bubba. Okay, he's a bit busy. Okay.
There's a moment. I'm back.
Okay.
So
Nice talk, Bubba.
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, bet you been waiting your whole life to say that. Anyway, so anyway, yeah, no, I am Geek Hero Bubba. You can find me over on X, where I argue and geek out. That's basically, be looking out in the future. In the near future, I'm trying to get my channel up and started. But in the meantime, tune in to these folks. They're all great. I don't know about this potato guy, but everybody else is awesome.
I hear he's a dick.
A dictator.
I know, right? Remember, guys, if I don't defend you, I'll get around to it. Phil, you want to shield your crap?
As I realized I was muted. Yes, I will
Such
shield
stupid.
my. Hey, I'm American. I can't help it. But I'll shield my crap. Okay, so I'm on the road to 900 subscribers. I'm like, what, 15, 16 subs away? And then I'm like 115, 16 subs away from 1K. So doing my best to reach there.
Awesome,
And that's about it.
awesome.
And just, I post like random videos that I've like recorded like months prior.
Yes.
Yeah, because I have no life, apparently.
Do we?
I love
do
you
any
guys.
of us love you too? I mean, imagine like someone in like what 5 weeks watched the entirety of One Piece.
True.
Yeah.
True.
5 months, not 5 weeks. It took me 20
I'm not
weeks.
talking about
I
you,
got through
Bubba.
1,073 episodes.
And I'm not talking about you, Bubba. Somebody on TikTok watched it in 5 weeks.
No, she said she started last year. You played that video for me.
It wasn't
Oh.
her.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
That person didn't eat, sleep, or breathe.
That
Right?
person. Like, people have been trying to figure out how he did it, and he said, I kind of don't remember One Piece.
Before like you show your channel, Revan, like I am a fan of Naruto. I've yet to like fully complete.
Oh no, sorry, we lost him.
But my point was, I would not go like 5 weeks just to binge watch Naruto as much as I love that anime.
So I'm Potato Revan. Guys, please go over hit me up. I talk about nerdy stuff, pop culture. I talk some every now and then. I'll be talking about like true crime, history. I do a pub quiz. Quiz? What the fuck? I do a pub quiz every week on a Tuesday. This upcoming Tuesday, we're going to be doing a quiz on Back to the Future. So yeah, yeah. So see you then. Good night. God bless, and remember, most of all, stay nerdy.